Hey, welcome back to TechMaker. This is part 4 of exploring Ethereum with Web3 JS. This is going to be a really quick episode. I just wanted to take a quick look at blocks actually. So if we jump back into our node console, and if you've been following along, you'll know what's going on. If you haven't, and you seem lost, you may want to go back and check out the first couple of episodes in this series, and it'll make more sense. So we'll just say var web3 equals require web3. All right, then we'll say var web3 lowercase equals new web3. Actually, I'm just going to cycle up to get where I wrote this earlier because I don't remember my Infura URL off the top of my head. So what we want to do is we want to look at the the latest block on the blockchain so that we can see what's inside of the block. To do that, there's a really simple function we can do where we say web3.eth.get block latest. And as with a lot of these things, we need to give it a callback. So we can just say error block, and then we're going to do this fat arrow function and console.log block. And so it returns a promise initially that we're waiting on the answer to come back, and then when we get the answer, it runs through our callback, and we get to see a bunch of stuff that's going on inside the block. So this is really interesting if you want to take some time and read up on all of these different attributes. For example, we have the difficulty, which is sort of the competition between the miners, like how difficult it is to actually mine this particular block. You can see the total gas of every transaction used in this block. You can see the miner who actually mined this block. So this is the guy who got paid in this case. Guy or gal or company or whatever. You can see what the block number is, the total difficulty of every transaction thus far. I think this is the size in bits of this block. And then we get this list of transactions, which is every transaction that is included in this block. So, we talk about how the blockchain works a lot, or you read about it maybe kind of on the periphery. And if you're just now getting into the development, it may not be exactly clear how all of it's put together. But each transaction gets its own hash, and so we'll look up a transaction in a second, and then all of those, whenever you submit a transaction, it gets bundled together with other transactions and then mined into a block, which is written to the blockchain. So let's do that. So first of all, I'm going to edit my function a little bit so that, hold on, let's say var block, just so that I have that available. And then we will, in here, we'll just say block equals block. I think I may have messed that up actually with the naming. Let's just see what happens. Wait a second, I should probably log out when I get the data back. Okay, yeah, let's do that differently. That was a bad move. Okay, so we'll say data, and then console.log data received, and then we'll say block equals data, close it out, data received. So now we should have block is all of that. Cool. So now we can say tx equals block.transactions, and let's just grab the first one. So now we can actually look at this transaction by saying web3.eth.get transaction. We'll give it the transaction we just pulled back, and then we also need to give this a callback function. So we'll say error transaction, and as always, we will give it a fat arrow function and just console.log out that transaction. And this should look familiar from the previous episodes where we were looking at different transactions against different smart contracts. So it's pretty straightforward to see how you could develop a kind of block explorer with just the information we've looked at here, right? You could pull back the last 100 blocks on a screen. Somebody clicks on a block, you render all the transactions in a list. They can click on a transaction and they can see what happened in that transaction. So if we look at Etherscan, you can actually see that that is really a lot of what's happening here. Now you can obviously find different ways to display the data, but if you look at this, we have a list of blocks, right? So let's click on a block. Basically just going to see the data that we were just looking at. You can click on the transactions and drill down and see an actual list of the transactions. Okay. And for each one of those transactions, we're getting a little bit of information. If we click in, we'll get the full detail on the transaction. If we go back to the home page on Etherscan, you can see how you could pull up the transactions to the top level, but you can look at this and see that these things come in groups, right? So these transactions we have 20 seconds ago, or 27 seconds ago. If I scroll down, if I view all, what you're going to see is that there's a big batch that's 25 seconds ago. If I keep going back, there's going to be another batch that changes at some point. It may take me a little while. See that right there? So we have 31 seconds ago, 36 seconds ago. And so they're basically taking the blocks and pulling all the transactions out, but you can see really what block they were in. Well, first of all, because it's labeling the block right here, but also just the time that it came in at. So I hope you found this interesting. I think it's really cool how, you could build something similar to this with what we were just looking at. They're doing a lot of things, I imagine, to make it performant and so on and so forth. And they're sprinkling in some extra interesting data like, valuations in US dollars and so on and so forth. But basically, what we were just looking at is the backbone for this website and many others that do similar things. That is it for this episode. If you're enjoying this series, please click subscribe and click the bell button. And as always, please like and leave any comments and questions you have. And I will get back to you there. I will talk to you next time.